The Monty and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite four-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
They have a couple cocktails, and Leah gets up, and she says, here's what she said. She says, here's to the chief. He loves the young pussy, but he always comes home to me.
That's classic.
Honest to God.
Wow.
I thought Mary Gagne was going to have a stroke right there. She couldn't. She grabbed her throat. It was, and I looked and I thought, oh my God.
Wow.
Peter says, shut up, woman.
Were you surprised when The Rock first came out that fans couldn't stand him, or, I mean, he basically came out like, his background. He had the tribal necklace going, and they hated him.
Sure. Well, you know what? He was sort of in a time when I wasn't really into wrestling, watching it, and for what he did, and his whole package was superlative. Personally, I didn't think he could work that well in the ring. I thought he was a little too determined. I mean, sort of. I mean,
ultimately, you didn't think he was polished? I mean, ultimately, in the end, at least for what he was trying to accomplish in the... I thought he was a great in-ring storyteller. I mean, he's not Bret Hart, obviously. And he's not you, obviously. It's a different kind of skill set. You know what I mean? But do you think he was at least...
That's true, but for what he did, he was excellent.
Yeah.
I just thought that... I don't know. I think it was a little... too predictable, but then all those guys that made millions of dollars were all predictable.
They've all got that formula, whatever it is. It's a certain set of circumstances they do every match.
So the matches are the same, and the WAEW or whatever is the same stuff.
But isn't that the fans that did that though? Like the younger fans, they forced that kind of behavior, right?
No, it wasn't. No, they were spoon-fed by by Vince McMahon. I mean, he's the one who he wanted the young kids to buy his stuff. So what does he do? He makes cartoon series, and then all of a sudden, you got Hulk Hogan making $50,000 a week in royalties on lunchboxes, T-shirts, mugs, banners. And that he was making $50,000 a week every week, and consequently, what happened was that Vince turned the whole concept of what wrestling used to be on TV to what he did, and the person who helped him the most was Ted Ebersol, who was a guy, the leader of
NBC.
I don't know if it was ABC.
NBC.
Wide World of Sports. NBC. He was a genius, and he offered the technology of the way they were shooting their programs to Vince, and that's what sold the package right there. Boom. Nobody's TV could compete with that. All of a sudden you got guys in some studio TV competing with the $200,000 production from New York. It can't be done.
Yeah, but wasn't the production always much better up here, even back when you were in the AWA? I thought the production was much better up here.
I didn't see it because it was strictly regional.
Okay, so
I mean, we never saw New York TV, just like they didn't see any AWA TV because there was no cables then.
Okay, how about during the 80s though? Did you even have time to check out cable back at home in Minnesota? I'm just curious as to what they had in Minnesota, because we had Georgia Championship Wrestling on TBS we could see during that time period.
Yeah.
We still had UHF, and I'm sure you remember UHF, flip over to UHF, and locally we were able to see Florida, so I got to see Gordon in the 80s. Tell you the truth, that's the first thing I saw was Gordon Soley, Florida Championship Wrestling on a UHF channel, of all things.
Isn't that something?
It's the first time I looked at wrestling, and it was like Bugsy McGraw doing something reminding me of Curly, and being a Stooges fan, I'm like, what is this? But anyway, and we also had, believe it or not, Olympic Auditorium in Spanish. I had Spanish announcers, but I also had John Tolos and Blassie And I would watch. I didn't care if I couldn't understand Spanish. I just was fascinated watching that product. So we had 3 that I can think of besides New York.
When I grew up, my earliest memory was in the 60s of watching Vern Gagne. And that's all we had was AWA. And then eventually we got a little bit, of Georgia wrestling when that, I don't know if it was TBS or whatever that cable was that came in.
Yeah,
TBS. And then that was about it.
Right.
And then we didn't know much, from the other territories until, Vince, just broke everything open.